Joe Biden is overseeing an economy that's had the lowest peacetime unemployment since World War II, lowest levels of poverty, lowest levels of uninsured people uninsured in terms of health insurance ever in the history of the country. And you just said laudatory things about him in terms of the kinds of leadership that he's modeling. And yet, this is where this is going. His approval ratings aren't strong, and his prospects for re-election are sort of middling at best. What do you see as the disconnect there?
Look, I think it is true that a lot of people in our country don't even know what he's done. And part of that is they don't get their news from MSNBC. They get their news from social media, if they get any news at all. They don't have the kind of information that would give them confidence in knowing what their government is doing.
They don't get their news from MSNBC.
It means that instead of the vaccine being able, instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person to person, spreading and spreading, sickening some of them, but not all of them. And the ones that it doesn't sicken don't know they have it. And then they give it to even more people because they didn't recognize they were. Right? Instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person, potentially mutating and becoming more virulent and drug resistant along the way, now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the vaccines will get us to the end of this.
You are fake news.
Beg your pardon?
Will you require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
They've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
They don't get their news from MSNBC.
Give me a break. What idiots.
It's really difficult to tell people what's going to happen in the future when, understandably, they are focused on the present. So, yes, people are worried about the cost of living. They're worried about the economy, although the Republicans have absolutely no plan to do anything about that. And so it's more challenging to say, hey, look, they're going to go after Social Security and Medicare. That is not something we're making up. They're saying it themselves. And hey, they're going after democracy and even counting votes that they think will help them and not others that won't. I mean, those are real threats to individuals and our lives every day, and threats to our country. But it is more challenging to get that focus on the future.
I haven't got a brain, only straw. Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-cop. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act. The brave women and men in blue all across this nation should never forget that.
We have a splintered information ecosystem which really works to the disadvantage of somebody who is not a performer in a political theater sense, but is a producer in a political results sense.
Donald Trump lacked the courage to act.